feeling so hard. Summer rhythms flame, we're gonna thrive. Go, 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 oh, shout it out loud. In the summer sun, we're a summer loving crowd. Talking Brazil ball, we're breaking it down.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Brazil Ball, the show all about Brazilian football. I'm here today, as always, with my co-host George. With a bit of a noise there, George. What happened there?
I don't know, James. I didn't hear it for me.
Oh, it sounded like a little bit of like a squeak or something. I thought you were excited, too excited to get the show going.
Well, I am, but no, nothing like that for me, James. And I must admit, I would ask you, come on by.
Yeah, very good. We all know what that means by now, don't we? So, yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I haven't actually worked out how to say response yet. So,
Well, you could say "bem," which means I'm all right.
Bem,
Something
yeah,
like "bem obrigado" or something like that.
Bem,
I'm okay.
obrigado.
And what I will say, James, today it's been Quente su clima brasileiro, which means hot, hot, hot. It's Brazilian weather out here today. It's been really warm.
Yeah, Quente indeed. Well, thank you for that little intro, George. We've got a Quente show coming up for you to match the weather over here in Costa del Yorkshire. Costa del Huddersfield.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I mean, it's there's lots to get through, James. Like you said, Brazil now is back, and yeah, we're ready for it. I think, yeah, we've got not a bumper show, but lots to get through today.
We do, yeah. Last week, of course, it was the international roundup. Well, we did a bit of a season review, didn't we? So thank you to everybody who listened to that. It was good to take stock of the season so far and assess everybody's performance. But like George says, we are back to it this week. We have had a full round of action. So, George, before we go any further, do you want to just refresh the listeners, get them all up to date with what's been going on while we've been away this week?
Yeah, it would be my pleasure, James. So, first and foremost, in the game week was Saturday, 14th of September. GO lost out to Vitória. Massive win for them, 2-0. Also, Atlético Paranense drew one apiece with Fortaleza. On Sunday, then, early hours of Sunday morning, Botafogo 2, Corinthians 1. Then Juventude 2, Fluminense 1. Palmeiras, big winners, James, 5-0 against Criciúma. RB Bragantino 2, Grêmio 2. Bahia 3, Galo 0. Cruzeiro 0, Sao Paulo 1. Flamengo 1, Vasco 1. And it rounded up today, James, a game week with Inter 3, Cuiabá 0. Inter looking good, James, under Roger Mercado now.
Yeah, they are looking very good. Into that's 3 wins in a row for them now, and we're going to get into them a little bit later on, I think, aren't we, George? But let's start off, as we always do, with our games of the week. I can't even remember what yours one was, to be honest, George. But do you want to go first? I've been away this weekend, haven't I? So I've kind of put Brazil ball, if I can, to the back of my mind just ever so slightly. But what was your game?
Well, it's understandable, James. Yeah, you said you had a week off. Just incidentally, did you have a good week just before I get into it?
Yeah, I did, thank you. Yeah, just didn't get away too far. Went down to Wales for the weekend, so nice little trip over there. Obviously, good to see Inter winning. That boosted my mood after Liverpool had lost on the Saturday, which was a shame. Even off and not writing about it, it still managed to disrupt my day. But yeah, I had a good time, thank you.
Oh, good. Well, as it always does, I was the same Saturday, frustrated with my team, of course, as well. And then Galo lost as well. So not a good weekend, really, for my... Yeah, heavily. Horrible result, but we might touch on that a bit later. But mine was Botafogo. There's a clue from the man behind me, James. Botafogo against Corinthians. I'll be honest, James, I picked it in readiness for a Memphis Depay debut. It didn't happen. I think the idea with him is which I, unbeknownst to me at the time, was to give him another week training to get to used to the climate, to get used with his new teammates and the way they're playing. So his debut is anticipated to be in the game in against GO, the home game against Atletico GO, which happens next Saturday evening UK time. So I expect to see Memphis then. We didn't see him in this one, but it was a win for Botafogo, which was dominated by Botafogo, to be fair, which was to be expected, to be honest with you, James. It ran in terms of what you'd expect the two teams to be in terms of league positions. But yeah, I mean, it didn't really hot up this game till the second half. Luis Enrique got a really nice, well-worked goal to begin with. Some really nice play, actually, James, from I think it was Vitinho, the ex-Burnley player, who was making only, I think, that was his debut, I think, as well. Really nice play. He then set up Jefferson Severino, who squared the ball to Henrique, who tapped it in. And what was really funny to notice, James, was that it really switched on a penalty miss from Angel Romario, the goalkeeper, John Victor, who he celebrated wildly after this penalty save. It was a good save, to be fair. Right before half time. If they can get level right before half time, it would have been a different game in the second half. As it was, they missed it. And then they did get a second penalty in the second half. Rodrigo Garo scored from the spot, but was funny to notice, James, from watching the highlights, was Corinthians changed the whole kit in the second half. Which I was like, what's happening here? They played in the home kit in the first half, and second half they came out in grey, So it obviously clashed with Botafogo. Maybe there was complaints from the Corinthian players as to whether they couldn't see properly, their own men in the white shirts compared to white and black of Botafogo. Who knows? But they got a pen in midway through the second half. Scored it, but only a few minutes later, Hugo Almeida, of course, he's made a big difference, James, though that was his first goal. Obviously on his way to Lyon, isn't he, in the summer, is he?
Well, I think Thiago Almada is. I'm not sure what Hugo Almeida is doing anymore. I mean, he's a long since retired, I think, as the Hugo Almeida. He's a Hugo Almeida.
Sorry, I meant Thiago Almeida. You knew who I meant, James. But yeah, apologies to the listeners. But obviously, he's a big signing for them. Deflected effort, wrong foot of the goalkeeper, and they went away with a 2-1 win. But like I said, they did batter them in this game. Really, maybe the scoreline doesn't really reflect how dominant they were. You'd expect them to be, James. It's again, it's a big win. But with Palmeiras getting a big win as well, they had to keep the pace. Obviously, they played before them, and 3 points is a gap now. So they're looking still good, like we discussed last week. I think both of us still would put them as our favourites from now on, with 12 games to go.
Yeah, definitely. They've got to be. They're just backing it up every week now, aren't they? Keeping strong. And Thiago Almada, I think. He's too good for this level, really. I think it is Leon he's going to, isn't it? I mean, I think you said it was Vitinha, that first goal. I thought it was Almada, actually, with a nice footwork, who slotted it through to Severino.
Oh, was it?
I think it was.
It might have been, yeah. It was lovely, a little bit of feet, and then through ball to Severino, who just squared it. He had to kind of adjust his body a little bit, Henrique, as well, and he tapped it in. But it's been a great season for him personally. He's, obviously broken into the Brazilian squad as well. Weighed in with 5 goals and 3 assists as well for Botafogo. He's on his way to Lyon as well, is he not, James? In next summer, is he?
I don't know what's going on with Luis Enrique, to be honest. I think there were talks of him going in January. In the summer, didn't happen in the end. I'm not really sure. It's got a bit fuzzy on that. I know that he's had some issues with. He was caught up in the betting thing that Lucas Paquetá was as well. Even a big drink there. That looked refreshing.
Yeah, it's apple juice. Yeah.
Bit of apple juice.
Uh,
Yeah, he
yeah. Yeah. On you go.
he.
Uh,
Yeah. Uh, yeah, he is. I don't know what he's doing, but he is looking good. And like we spoke about in last week, sorry, those two players, Enrique and Almada, between them, I think are probably about the best duo in terms of quality in the league. And Almada again with the second goal there, the winner. It was again really nice footwork to shift it onto his. It was on his left foot, I think, and it did take a
yeah, it
different.
was.
But it was
It was
a
a
good
heavy,
goal
it, it
nonetheless.
was. I mean, when I was watching it, I thought if he hits it from here, that's going to be great. But he just shuffled it to his. I think is it his better foot, maybe that, and I think that's his preferred into. No, sorry, his right-footed into primarily. But yeah, took a deflection, went in, and they won the game. They got the job done in the end, and like I said, they did dominate really. But I think that, like I said, the game did swing on John Victor's save. I think, and that can't be. You know, you've got to put weight on that save really, because that would have put it at 1-1. I know they did go down to 1-1, but they replied quickly. And, 6 unbeaten now in all competitions. They've got a big game in the Libertadores, of course, Thursday morning here. So, they're going to that with confidence, James.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a word on Corinthians then, George. I mean, as you said at the top there, it wasn't a foregone conclusion. I mean, they seem like they put up a good fight, but they are still down in the relegation zone. They did make it through in midweek since we last spoke to the Copa do Brasil semi-final. So they beat Juventude. They overturned it, which was a good result for them. 3-1 in the second leg, put them through to face Flamengo in the semis. I mean, obviously, playing midweek, big effort expended for them. It was always going to be difficult, this one, wasn't it? I think they've got bigger and more important battles to come, really, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Look, like I mentioned, the game against Gio at home, it's massive. I know Gio have rolled over a bit and they look dead and gone, but for Corinthians to get 3 points there, potentially could move out the relegation zone, James. And, yeah, look, the season is not going to be defined by away defeats against Botafogo. It's games like Gio at home, which is massive, which they've got to put out a weight into now. Like I said, Memphis Depay will potentially be ready for this one, and the fans will be up for it and see what he can do. And yeah, like I said, I'm a little bit disappointed because I was hoping to maybe see him and speak about him, but obviously it hasn't happened this week.
No, well, there's still plenty of time left to run the rule over Memphis. Yeah, I'm sure it'll give them a bit of a boost. They must have been buoyed by that result against Juventude, and it will be interesting to see because, as you say, Gio are about the best team you can face really in the Brazil are out at the moment. So they really do have to win that one, and that could give them a little bit of a bounce moving forward. Anything else you wanted to say on that one, George? It was a better game for you this week, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to get a little bit more luck, James, now with them. But no, that's all. I think that's all. Big win for Botafogo at the top. Corinthians can't be too disheartened. They did it okay, but it was always going to be an uphill struggle, that one. Like I said, well, you said they've got bigger fish to fry next week. And obviously, as well, between now and then, they've got a Sudamericana game against Fortaleza tomorrow. Well, in the very early hours of tomorrow morning. So yeah, that's a quarter-final game. So again, if we can get through in the cups, which they did midweek in the Brazilian Cup, if they can get through in the Sudamericana and put weight on the cup competitions, and they're doing okay. The Brazilian obviously need to make sure they stay up. But they've got a little bit of distraction, which I don't think is too bad for them, given the bad season that they've had.
No, although distraction can soon, lead on to you losing your eye, kind of taking your eye off the ball in terms of league position and going down. But let's see how they do. They've certainly got plenty of plates to keep spinning there. Ramon Diaz. Well, thank you for that, George. It was a good roundup, and Botafogo, of course, sitting pretty there at the top. And for my game of the week, I was looking at a team who were hoping to challenge them. In Flamengo, so they were taking on Vasco da Gama, which is of course the Clásico de Milhões, the Rio Derby, the Classic of the Millions. It's supposed to be the two teams with the two biggest fan bases in the capital. So that's the reason behind that name. And it was a game that was really kind of headlined by the man behind me there, the little magician himself, Felipe Coutinho, who came up trumps, George, with a very, very late equaliser at the Maracanã. Before that, Flamengo had kind of dominated. They did get themselves ahead in the second half. It was a really nice team goal, actually, from Gerson, who's your friend, isn't he, as I always say. I know he's coming from a bit of stick, I think he was in the Brazilian squad, or he's been in and around it, and I think he's not quite maybe of the quality that they might have been used to in the midfield there. But anyway, it was a really good goal. This really well worked team goal, started right from the goalkeeper, was worked from left to right over to Gerson, and he kind of slotted it really well in off his left foot. So that put Flamengo ahead, and I think they probably thought they'd done enough to see off Vasco. After that, I mean, Vasco, again, like Corinthians, had a midweek game, and they did manage to get through to the semi-final of the Copa do Brasil as well. So they actually lost to Atlético Paranense, but did go through on penalties. So they're into the semis against Galo. But they picked themselves up, went to the Maracanã, and yeah, it was Felipe Coutinho who got on the end of a crossing the ball, got in front of his marker, and headed home. I mean, in all the years I was watching Felipe Coutinho play for Liverpool, I think he scored one header. I remember it was a little flicked header at the Emirates, and I don't think he got any more. He's only a little man. But this one was kind of a stooped header, and he kind of followed it into the net, really. And as you can see behind there, he really enjoyed that goal. And actually, George, it was a bit of a prophetic goal. It was his first one since coming back to Vasco from Villa, actually on loan, isn't he? Only on loan still. But this is what he said in 2008, George, when he was first coming through at Vasco. It's a dream to play there at the Maracanã. From time to time, I went there to watch. My dream has always been to play there and to score a goal against Flamengo at the Maracanã. That was in 2008. So, obviously, a very young boy at that time, I think of 18 or so, and he's come back as a veteran now. And in his first goal since coming back, he's actually fulfilled his dream of 2008. So that was a nice moment for wee Phil Coutinho. And obviously a nice moment for Vasco, are really kind of on a good roll at the moment. They're unbeaten in 6, George. Like I said, they're into the Cup semi, and it was a goal which really frustrated, I think, Flamengo, is fair to say. What did you make of the kind of the Coutinho homecoming and the goal at the end there? It was 88th minute, so it was a very late equaliser.
Yeah, I mean, he'd only just come on, James, really, 74th minute. So he'd not been on the pitch long. And like you said, it must have meant so much to him. You know, those comments, it's obviously an iconic stadium for him. Would have been fantastic for him to score and for it to mean something for the team as well. Obviously, you know, if you score a goal, you want it to be a winner or a point-saving goal, and that was it. Maybe it was only what they could hope for Vasco at the Maracanã with Flamengo. Although Flamengo do seem to be dipping a little bit in and out, really. They'll be really disappointed with that. They'd have expected to win. But, in terms of Coutinho, I like Coutinho. I mean, I had the conversation. I was almost tempted to give him the play of the round, James, because of the goal. It was first goal, late point saver. But obviously we've gone for somebody else in the end. But he's definitely worth mentioning. I really like him. I know you do as well, of course. But yeah, happy to see him get a goal, and we like to cover these sort of players as well, don't we? So, so it's good to see. Just a note on Flamengo, James. I didn't realise this, but maybe one to keep an eye on. I think he's just signed this fellow at the end of the transfer window. Ecuadorian lad, Gonzalo Plata, who signed from a Qatari side, Al Sadd, who are managed by the former Ecuador national team manager, Felix Sanchez, the Spanish fella. And he signed for Flamengo. And the reason I noticed his name is Leeds were linked with this fella a couple of years ago. He was playing for Ronaldo's team, Real Valladolid. He's played in Portugal as well for Sporting Lisbon, Ecuadorian international. So maybe one to keep an eye on. He did start this game. But yeah, just an interest when I saw that one.
Yeah, I remember that actually, and it was actually his debut, Plata, and it was also the debut of probably a slightly more notable player for Flamengo is Alexandro, the left back, formerly of Juventus, spent a long time at Juventus. It was his debut as well. So Plata, I think, came on. No, Plata started, didn't he? Alexandro
Played the
also
whole
started.
game.
Yeah, he played the whole game as well. Alexandro did. So he's 40 caps for Brazil. He's been around a long time, Alexandro, and he played relatively well by all accounts. I think he might have been the man actually caught on his heels for Coutinho's goal, but he was a bit out of position. And actually, Tite was not happy with that goal. He was seen remonstrating with the centre back Leo Pereira after the goal had gone in. And to be honest, watching the goal back, Pereira is nowhere. I don't know where he is. He's out of shot almost even when Coutinho heads it in, and the defense was a bit all over the place. But yeah, Alexandro's a good signing for them. Obviously, they have the Uruguayan chap Vinha, who's out for the season with an ACL injury, so he's going to be important for them. He was happy after the game, George. He said it's more than a debut and returning to Brazil after 13 years in Europe. The dream of wearing the shirt with the Maracanã packed. Sorry, I was going to say parked. It looks like parked. I've written packed. So, yeah, he was happy to come back, happy to play his part, and I think he'll be a big player moving forward. Important to note for Flamengo, they also made it through to the Copa semi-final, so they were playing midweek. They beat Bahia, so they're into the semis as well, George. Like you said, they are struggling a little bit to get going properly. They're still in fourth. They're 8 points off the top. They do have a game in hand, so it's not completely done for them. They do need to keep kind of winning games though, and kind of sucker punches like the one Coutinho delivered a little bit aren't the way to do that. So I don't think they're going to go any higher, to be quite honest. They might come third. I don't think the top two are going to be challenged this time by Flamengo, but maybe next year.
Well, I just want to get your thoughts quickly then, James, on Tite. What do you think? You think if they finish fourth, do you think he gets the chop at the end of the season, or will he leave? Does he? What do you think to Tite? Because he's obviously a very decorated manager in Brazil. Will he take coming fourth? Do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question because, like you said, I think they probably would have expected a little more. I think the point with Flamengo is that I think they came fourth last year, didn't they? And they had a really up and down year last year. So I think to maybe cement that a little bit, they might go up, but if they do come fourth, it depends how they do in the cups. Perhaps they are still in both of them, so they've got a Copa Libertadores game coming up. I think in a day or two against Peñarol. So they're in the quarters of that. They could still go all the way in that. They've got a good enough squad, and like we know, Tite is, a good enough manager to do that. And they're in the Copa semi-final as well, and they've got Corinthians in that. So you'd kind of back them to get through that. The other semi is Vasco against Gallo, so they'd be favourites going into whoever they play in that. So I think if they can pick up a cup, finish in the top four, I think they'll stick with him. And I think there's a lack of good managers maybe out there at the minute for them to turn to. Otherwise, I think they'll be sensible and they'll give Tite enough time. And like I said, maybe next year, once he's had a bit more time with the squad, once he's maybe had another transfer window, once injuries have subsided, maybe. Although saying that, Pedro will still be injured for a chunk, won't he? But I think next year, I think they'd be really foolish to get rid of him, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough, James. Yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that one there.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And yes, let us know if you feel the same. I don't know how people feel about Tite, really. I know he's very respected, isn't he, still? But perhaps his reputation has taken a knock now that he hasn't really been able to pull them up as maybe some had expected. Like you expected, George, of course, you put them down.
I did, yeah.
Didn't you? But it doesn't look like it'll go that way. But anyway, we'll wait and see how they respond. Libertadores, like I said, midweek is very big for them. So let's see how they get on in that, George. So that was the games of the week. Two quite big games, two good games, really, for us to get stuck into. Let's move on to the player of the round. George, as you said, Coutinho was definitely in the running for that, based on the kind of the enormity of the goal he scored and what it kind of meant to him. But there was a chap who quietly registered a couple of goal contributions, George. So another ex-Premier League player. Do you want to introduce this week's player of the round?
Yeah, we haven't really touched on this fella at all, James. Like you said, he's an ex-Premier League player. It's a player that I would expect probably the listeners to know, former Brazilian international. It is, of course, the man Felipe Anderson, from West Ham, player. Has played in Europe with Porto and Lazio as well. Look, he got Palmeiras had a big win, James. It was expected, probably. We know what they can do against these sort of teams. No disrespect to Criciúma at all. But they do have it in their arsenal to really destroy teams. They did in this one. And Anderson was very much a big part of that with a goal and an assist. And, within the first first part of the game as well, he got the goal. Didn't he? The 15 minutes, he got the goal. Then he set up Estevao, our friend Estevao, for the fourth one. So yeah, he had a great game. I think he's had a bit of a slow start really to his time back in Brazil. So he'll be happy to get only his second goal of the season, James. So
yeah, it's his second goal in 3 games actually. So he's starting to pick up a bit of form, and like I said, he's a very experienced player. And he on his day, he's not even that old. I think he's 30, isn't he, Felipe Anderson? He's not.
He's 31.
31 now, so he's still, kind of, he could play at a higher level. He was a good player for Lazio up until recently. He was excellent at times for West Ham. So, I mean, he's, like you said, I think with Palmeiras that he came into a team that were not really kind of all that functioning, and he's had to bide his time a little bit, and he's had to kind of ride through that rocky period. But like I said, 2 goals in 3 games, an assist to boot. They were both well taken, the goal and the assist. So, on form, he could be a real weapon for Palmeiras. And they like I said, they've snuck into gear quite ominously, really, as I think they tend to do, really, at this time of the season. They even managed to pick up a red card. George, it didn't bother them. They've won 4 in a row, George. They've scored 14 in that time. They've only conceded 1. They're up to second, 3 behind Botafogo. It's looking, they haven't been brilliant, but they're still right up there. And someone like Felipe Anderson, as you mentioned, Estevao, he's now equaled Neymar's record, George, 16, 9 goals, 7 assists. If they start purring, they could threaten our prediction for Botafogo, couldn't they?
Well, they definitely could, James. I think we've kind of written off Palmeiras, from last week. The way that we were talking was that Botafogo were going to win it, and Palmeiras are only 3 points behind. Played the same amount of games, and like you said, they're really in form. Only 1 goal conceded in the last 4. Did you say 14 scored? A couple of 5-0 wins in there as well, and they share the goals about as well. It's not like I know Estevao's got 9, but Jose Lopez, who I think we'll touch on in a little bit later as well, he's got 8, so he's having a good season. So, they're sharing them about a bit, and, they're having a good season quietly. But then again, sort of as the expectations are there, they're probably not very happy with it. I know Abel Ferreira's been very outspoken, to put it lightly, this season. So, let's see if they can better Botafogo. But like you said, I think definitely it's between those 2 for the title now.
Yeah, I think two points really on why we were probably wrong to write Palmeiras off. Although write them off is probably a little strong, but I don't think it'd be a surprise to anybody if they won it. But they are obviously in a little bit patchy form. But I think 2 reasons why they could end up winning it is, the first one is because they are not in any cup competitions, so all their focus is on the Brasileirão. So obviously they'd prefer to be in the competitions, but they do have quite a biggish squad, and a squad with quality, so they can rotate, they can rest. They're not kind of playing massive games every 3 days. So that's their focus now, and they're better than probably every team really in this league if they put their minds to it. So that could serve them well. A second factor could be just the mental scarring from last season of Botafogo. Obviously, it's a different manager. A lot of the players have changed, but there are still some there, and it's kind of in their kind of DNA. They'll remember that from last year where they were so far ahead. I mean, there's less space between them this time, but Palmeiras hunted them down and snuck it in the end. And as we get towards the end of the season, that could start to prove a little bit crucial as those players remember, and the pressure is on more. And as I say, if they do get through in the Libertadores, then they're playing on that front as well. So, George, I think that could just be something. If Palmeiras keep close enough to them, that could be something that could be Botafogo's undoing at the end.
Well, look at Palmeiras fixtures, James, you know who they play. 3 games to the end. It's a massive game against Botafogo at home. 30th November, James, for your calendar. That's 3 games from the end of the season. So that could be a title decider, really, maybe.
That is a tasty one, yeah.
Definitely. That'll definitely be on the game of the week rota, I think.
Yeah, you can say that again for sure. Well, we'll look forward to that. And yeah, like you said, Palmeiras.
That'll be on the. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can say it again, but when there's a slight lag on the audio, you can't really play that joke.
No.
But yeah, you can certainly say that again. As for Kachuma, George, bad day at the office. I don't think there's anything more to say on that. 3 points above the relegation zone. They're still keeping their heads above water. They've got the game in hand. So there's a big one next against Paranense at home. That might be one they look at and think they can. I think they go ahead of Paranense if they win that. So that might be one that they'll look at and think of as one that they should win. Has Balassi replied to you yet, Yannick Balassi? We've been trying to get him on the show.
We're still waiting, Yannick, for your reply. Let's wait and see. There's another chance before we speak again.
Still waiting, Yannick. That's naughty, that. Anyway, you know what to do there. So, yeah, well done to Felipe Anderson. The things are starting to turn around, perhaps, for him in Sao Paulo. So, Mr. Player of the Round, and well-deserved. So, George, on to the Young Player of the Round. There are a few more candidates for this one, I dare say. I've got down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 or 6, I think, maybe 5 young players who got a goal this week. So, do you want to mention a couple of them who caught your eye? There were a few that we often see. Obviously, Estevao, I didn't count Estevao in that. He's obviously got another goal, but there were a few others, weren't there?
Yeah, I'm going to say, James, how long have you got? You know what I mean? There's plenty of scorers this week, weren't there? There was Monsalve, got a goal for Grêmio, really nice little chipped finish to set them on the way. Obviously drew with RB Bragantino. There was another young goal scorer in that game, was Mr. Vinicius Mendonça, who was, I think it actually was his first game, or no, it wasn't, but he was in his first few games for Bragantino. There was the man.
That was a really nice goal, actually, as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he kind of nicked it off the defender. I just wanted to say on that one, Vinicius Mendonça. So we watched the little highlights, don't we? And it comes up with the scorers' names, and so it didn't. These are kind of instructive. It didn't say Mendonça or Vinicius. This guy calls himself Vinicinho.
Right, gosh.
Swig of your apple juice there. Oh, it's.
Yeah. Right. Oh,
are you?
Yeah. Well, it's nice.
It's a warm day, isn't it? Yeah. So
that's what I mean. Succo di Marca.
Excuse me.
Succo di Marca. That's apple juice.
Succo di Marca.
Yep.
Succo di Marca.
That's what I'm drinking.
I'm certainly sucking on something over there, aren't you? So, yeah, Vinicinho. He was one of the scorers. You rightly say, George. Wonderful, cutting inside, great left-footed finish. Luciano Rodriguez, George, you were a fan of this goal, weren't you? I'm a big fan of this player. He's been on my radar simply because he plays for Liverpool, or he did play for Liverpool. But not Liverpool FC, George. Liverpool FC Montevideo, of course, a Uruguayan side. He's a young player with a lot of potential, and he's come to Bahia. He was supposed to be moving to Girona in Spain, and it broke down, so he moved to one of the other City Group satellite clubs, and that is, of course, Bahia. What a goal this one was.
Bahia, like I said to you, James, we're having their own sort of goal-around competition, unfortunately for me, against my team. But yeah, Luciano Rodriguez, like you said, he came from Liverpool, not Liverpool, the UK, obviously, England. Like you said, Liverpool in Uruguay, or the team Liverpool. I think, yeah, like you said, he was supposed to come to Girona. He broke down. No doubt he'll probably end up at Man City at some stage. Only 21. It was a lovely curled goal, this, to be honest with you. On another day, he might have won the young player of the round award. He might have on another day even won the goal of the round award as well. So he's a bit unlucky this week.
A little bit, yeah. It'd be interesting to see if he does end up at City because, like you said, he's only 21. I think he's already I don't know if he's made his Uruguay debut, but he's certainly been called up. So yeah, he's definitely one to keep an eye on from Bahia. And Georgia, we were rumming an hour in between two players, weren't we, for the young player of the round? Obviously, all of those three had a shot as well as Esteval, perhaps. But Marcelinho of Juventude, you were close to giving that to him, weren't you?
I was, yeah, because I just thought he literally, it was his first touch, the goal. It was a lovely finish as well. He came on the 83rd minute, James, and scored in the 84th minute. Like I said, his first touch. Juventude, marvelously, impressively turned the game around late on against Fluminense to win the game, late on in the last 10 minutes. He only had 3 touches of the ball, James Marcelinho, in this game. One of them was to put it in the net. It was a nice goal. And, yeah, I think maybe if it was up to solely myself, I think I maybe have given it to him, but I do understand why we have given it to the man who has got it. As well, it's to be noted that he is on the older scale of the young player scale that we have. So I think it is sometimes better to, put people's attentions to the younger players in the league as well. So maybe that was a factor as well in our decision for it.
I think also the fact that just because, obviously very impressive, he's come on and score with his first touch. It's a winner, turn around the game for Juventude. Massive win for them too. But, he's only been on the pitch a few minutes. So I think, yeah, you're right. Those are the factors behind the decision to give it for a second time, George, to William Gomez of Sao Paulo. It's his second award, isn't it?
It is. He got a double award last time he got the award, James. He got goal of the round as well when we gave it to him as well. So he got a double award. No double award this week for him, but an award nevertheless. It was a nice goal as well that he got, to be fair.
Yeah, it was. Took kind of a few step overs. The defender took it on his left foot and kind of smashed it into the roof of the net. And the reason he really wins it is because, like you said, George, he's on the younger end of that scale. He's only 18, and as we spoke about a couple of weeks back, he has signed a new contract with Sao Paulo. They've got very high hopes for him there, haven't they? He's quickly turned into kind of a starter for them. Played the full game, and the goal was the only goal of the game, and it was a winning goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's another winning goal, James. He's signed a new contract basically immediately after that the other goal he scored, which was, I think, a winning goal as well, wasn't it? I believe. I think it was. Yeah, the winner against Vitória. Sorry, it wasn't the winner, no, but it was his first goal and everything. But yeah, look, he's a young player. He'll be coming onto a lot of people's radars now. We know the big European sides like to look at the young players in Brazil, so maybe he'll be putting himself on a few shopping lists, with that goal. It wasn't a finish. It was a really important win again for Sao Paulo as well, James. It's got to be said, against Cruzeiro, who were directly below them in the table. Sao Paulo are really breathing down the necks now of Flamengo, only a point behind, having played a game more. So there'll be, dreams of the Libertadores this, for next season, definitely.
Yeah, well, I don't know about dreams is the right word, perhaps, because they're already in the Libertadores, aren't they? They're in the quarterfinals, so they're used to that kind of level. They're playing Botafogo Thursday morning, so that was they actually played, according to Luis Zubeldia, they played a bit of a second string team for this game, even though it was, like you said, an important game against Cruzeiro, who, as we said last week, are going extremely well. But yeah, he said that they didn't even have 48 hours to prepare for the game. They had a training session basically and watched a bit of video, because they did play midweek in the Copa do Brasil and they actually went out, so they relinquished their title. They are still title holders, but they won't go back to back. They lost to Galo, George. So they played, and then they played midweek, then they play Cruzeiro, and then they've got the big game against Botafogo. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind for them, and credit to them for bouncing back from going out the cup and getting that big win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? It would have been a heck of a disappointment for them to go out the cup that they were holders of for last season. So for them to turn it around, a big game away in Belo Horizonte, you know, going away there is difficult, as we know. I think Cruzeiro have a really good home record. So it's, you know, it's difficult. It's a great win. You know, it's a really good win, and you know, from their point of view, it'll set them up nicely for that Libertadores game. You know, on early hours of Thursday morning, because that's a big game, and it's an opportunity for them to get to the latter stages again. You know, and you know, like I keep saying, James, you know, my prediction seems to be coming right. They are, you know, they're a bit of a surprise in a sense, and really like Zubeldia. They're doing a really good job. He's doing a really good job, should I say. But one player, which was a bit of a history made, James, of course, which we have to mention when we're mentioning Sao Paulo, is that man Jamal Lewis, who made his debut for the last 17 minutes, I believe, against Cruzeiro in this game. First British player to play for Sao Paulo. I think the first British player to play in the Brasileirão, potentially. I'm not 100% sure on that, James, but he had a lot of things to say after the game. Obviously played for Northern Ireland in the international break as well, and would have been so excited to get going in Brazil. And he said after the game, even though it was an away game, it was great to see the fans. They made a lot of noise and supported the players. I am grateful to them. I have seen games at home. I hope to be able to receive all this affection and show this atmosphere. It will be incredible to be able to play at home. He continued to say, Sao Paulo is a huge club in Brazil, and Brazilian football is very well regarded in Europe, especially in England. I am just arriving, but we want to win the trophy, add another World Cup to our list. I have played my entire career in England, and I have always said that I would like to play in a league in another country to learn another culture and another type of game. So, you know, fair play to him. He went on to say, you know, he wants to learn Portuguese in the next couple of weeks. He'll be getting a teacher in. You know, I'm open to calls, you know, from him, you know, potentially. But yeah, you know, I think he wants to obviously immerse himself in it. He spoke about his, you know, admiration for Brazilian football as a youngster, and he mentioned Ronaldinho and his admiration for the country as well. So he's excited to be there, of course, and why would he not be? You know, regular football. I think Newcastle fans probably forgot he was still in their squad, you know, so revitalise his career, and fair play to him.
Yeah, definitely. Good luck to him for sure. I mean, so he says the fans were happy, they were loud. I'm sure they were. The Sao Paulo fans, a good day for them, but the Cruzeiro fans weren't so happy, George. There was some reports, or I don't know if it was very audible, but they were swearing at the manager, Fernando Seabra, during the game and after the game, apparently quite strongly. So obviously a bit of a shame, really. I mean, they're having a good season. They're probably still higher than they should be. They're in 7th, which isn't too bad even. But obviously the expectations have been heightened, and that's something that the players pointed out after the game. Mateus Pereira, who's obviously been so good this season, and also Lucas Romero, the captain, both came out in support of Seabra, saying, you know, if the expectations have been raised, then it's because of him. You know, it's because of the job he's been doing and they've all been doing together. So, you know, a bit of a shame to hear that the fans have kind of turned on him at this point. But obviously it was a big defeat, as you say. And yeah, important that they bounced back. They're actually playing in the Copa Sudamericana this midweek. I think Friday morning they're playing Libertad, who are the Paraguayan side. So important they bounce back, because once the fans start turning like that, even if the team are doing so well, it might not be that long for it, Seabra.
Yeah, I don't. It's strange to me, James, because like you said, they're probably higher up than they should be. I know they're in seventh, but they're not that far off the Libertadores places, and they're in. They're still in continental competition, like you said. Um, Libertad, maybe they'd expect to beat them. I don't know, but maybe it's the goals that they're concerned about. They've not scored in 3 of the last 5 games, James. So maybe that's something. I know Mateus Pereira. I don't think he's been on form, hasn't he, recently, like you said, but I don't, recent games, I'm not sure if he's really hit the heights behind potentially that like he did earlier on in the season. No goals for quite some time now for him. Form seems to have dried up, and he seems to be the catalyst from that everything good this season has been for Cruzeiro. When he's not potentially at it, it doesn't seem like the whole team are really. So it is a shame because I think he's done quietly one of the best jobs of the season, Seba, really. But obviously, I'm not a Cruzeiro fan, so shoot me down now But yeah, go and swear at him now, I guess, if that's your prerogative. But it's a shame for me to hear that.
Well, some people might accuse you of being a bit of an inside agent, seeing as it's your team's biggest local rivals, isn't it? But they are doing a better job, perhaps.
My team are not anything to shout about at the moment. They're really not good at all. And it's one of them things. Are way ahead. I mean, that'll please them. I mean that's got to please them, James. Surely they're quite a way ahead, 8 points, and in 3 places above Gallo. So that's got to be some kind of saving grace for Seba as well, potentially.
Yeah, I think maybe perhaps they'll settle down and realise that. But for the moment, it's kind of crunch time, isn't it, of the season? If you're in and around there, now's the time to kick on. If you start dropping away, you're not going to get back, are you? But they're still in there for me in terms of a top 4, maybe, or top 6. So let's see. Like I said, if they bounce back midweek in that first leg, I don't know if it's in Paraguay. That I think it possibly might be, but. Yeah, I'm not sure on that. But anyway, let's move on, George, to the goal of the round, because again, there are a few kind of contenders in this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just incidentally, it is an away game in Paraguay, the first leg of that Sudamericana quarter-final, James. But yeah, there's a few, the 1 or 2. I mean, the one that I really did enjoy, I mentioned it just briefly earlier on, was Jose Lopez's goal against Criciúma in their big win. Only 2 minutes into this game, and he unleashed a really, really nice goal. But here, like I said, unfortunately for me, had a goal of the round competition of their own. There were all 3 goals were probably contenders. One from Everaldo, one from Ribeiro, and like we mentioned, Rodriguez with the injury time goal was probably the pick of the bunch. So was there any that you particularly like, James, at all to mention?
Yeah, that Lopez one was really good. I mean, he kind of took it on his left foot, didn't he? Flicked it up in the air. I mean, a bit hard to say on the replay if it came off the defender or if it came off him, but I think he did flick it up and then volleyed it in. It was a really good goal. I like Gerson's goal, as I mentioned, good team goal. That Thiago Almada one, as we mentioned, was nicely done, although it was a deflected one. I thought Moises Vieira for Fortaleza was quite a nice goal as well. What a give and go, and then he kind of dribbled it past the defenders and slotted it in. That was a nice goal. So yeah, definitely a few in there. But the man we've given it to this week, George, is Gabriel Mercado for Inter. As we said, Inter on a little bit of a roll now, and this was just to be fair, it could have been any of them. I don't think this was a massively clear winner, but kind of it was a really good technique, wasn't it? A bouncing ball going away from the goal, and he just hits it on the swivel across himself into the far corner. And it was a heck of a strike, this one, wasn't it, from a defender as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lovely goal, James. Like I said, on any given day, any of those that we've mentioned could have potentially won it. But this, I don't know, as soon as I saw it, I thought, yeah, that's won it, obviously, in the early hours of this morning, when I saw it. But I thought, yeah, that's got to be from a defender to have such a technique like that. Obviously, he's obviously got technique, former Argentine international, isn't he? Got a fair few caps for them. Been at Inter since 2021. So yeah, lovely goal, and and that was it. I think that was his first of the season. Yeah, so what a way to get your first goal of the season, and Inter absolutely rolling now. James, aren't they? Unbeaten in the last 5 league games, won 4 of those games. They've got a interesting looking game against Sao Paulo coming up. So yeah. I mean, it's all good for Inter fans, isn't it, at the moment? Surely.
Yeah, well, you can say that again. I've been enjoying all of it the last few weeks, and I think it's nice to see the kind of the I don't know if patience is the right word, to be honest, because he's barely been there any time at all, has he? But I know obviously Mercado had quite a lot of critics, walked into a bit of a kind of a lion's den really with his Gremio past and his Juventude, present really, where they got him from Juventude. So he's obviously been at Inter's 2 closest rivals, and that's not a good position to start from really as a manager. And he did have a difficult start. They really couldn't seem to get going, but I always said just stick with him. I think they'll be okay. They've had those games in hand to try and claw back. They have played a couple of those. I think they've won both of the games in hand that they've had. Or they might have drawn. They drew one with Cruzeiro, and then they beat they beat Juventus. No, they beat somebody. They beat Fortaleza, didn't they? Kind of in between while the international break was going on. So that's looking much better for them now. They're in 8th position. 2 games in hand still on a couple of teams. Like you said, they've got Sao Paulo coming up next, and it might be a good time to play Sao Paulo. They'll have played, there'll be their 4th game in about 10 days. I think that they're obviously playing Botafogo. That might take a bit out of them. So could be a good time to play them. And, we see sometimes these teams sneak quietly up the table, and I think we might be in for one of them with Inter.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we mentioned it last week, didn't we, James? I think we both were pretty much in agreement that I think, with the games in hand, they are improving. I think they will knock on the door for Libertadores, qualification. And, it's Mercado's doing a great job. Like you said, fans were a bit frosted to him, given his pass with 2 of their rivals, really, if you like, even though he wasn't there at Juventude for too long. But yeah, I think that's, we're starting to see the fruits of his labour, like you said, a little bit of patience maybe when it didn't start so well, but now they're rolling and, they've got a good team, James, and it's good to see that Borre, is starting to come good a little bit now as well and getting amongst the goals, Rafael Borre and, Wesley's there, they've got a decent side here on the quiet, and they're starting to prove that, and we're starting to see why they're we're favourites, in our eyes, at the start of it, really.
Yeah, Wesley actually was aiming high still. I mean, talking after the game, listen to this, George. We will dream of the title as long as there is a possibility. We will fight until the end. So, I mean, inside the Inter camp, they're on that high in confidence that they think there is still an outside chance that they could push up the table and go for the title. I mean, I think that's the games in hand talking, perhaps. I mean, the 15 points off the top, even if you win both of those, you're 9 points away. For me, at this stage of the season, unless something drastic happens, which it could, it's never over till it's over. But that seems like a long shot to me. Although I will say that I think if without the kind of obviously the tragedy that happened earlier in the season with the weather conditions of flooding and everything, I do think they would be up there. But obviously, they have changed the manager and things, so you don't know quite how it would have gone if Cadet was still in charge. But they're obviously, they're backing themselves.
Yeah, I mean, why not as well? Like you said, maybe like you said, it is the games in hand talking, but yeah, they're on good form, unbeaten in 5, won 4 of them. Why wouldn't they say things like that? They see Botafogo last year making a bit of a mess of it. Why not? Why not? If they can go on a run, like you said, I don't see it personally myself, but he's confident and he's among the top scorers in that squad. So, along with Borre, so why not? If he can get the goals in and they all can chip in with them, who knows where they can go? But I would say Libertadores qualification is a little bit more realistic, but Why not?
Yeah.
Shoot for the star.
I mean, he did go on to say actually that the qualification for the Libertadores is probably the more realistic aim, but while it's still there, they might as well give it a real shot. So yeah, very good honour roll for them. Mercado fantastically showing why he was appointed as well. For Cuiabá, George, again similar to Kachuma, really bad day at the office, and they've been a bit up and down. They're not doing too badly under the new manager, but they do still look like they're going to come up short, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, Kachuma a bit in different form, aren't they? So over the last sort of 5, but yeah, I think they will. I think they will come up short. They're going down, James. It's a shame, really. I think the 2 at the bottom are dead and gone. I think it's the other 2 positions, relegation positions, are up for grabs a little bit from about 4 or 5 teams maybe. So I will say actually, James, we haven't touched on them really this pod at all again, but it's Paranense. They've got to be careful. Here, I know they've got games in hand on the teams below them, but they're only 5 points above the relegation zone now. They need to start winning games. They really do. They haven't won a game in the league now for since the end of July. They're on horrendous form, and it's starting to look like the appointment of Martin Varini was probably the wrong one.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I've had my eye on them for a few weeks. To be honest, they do seem to be sliding a bit. I mean, it wasn't a bad point for them this week against Fortaleza, was it? Come from behind point, but yeah, they do need to correct that for sure coming forward. And as I say, they've got a big game coming this week against Criciúma, so that'll be a signal. If they can win that, they start to pull away again a little. If they lose that, then they are right in amongst that relegation scrap, George. And on that note, let's have a look ahead to the fixtures, because there's some good ones again coming up. So do you want to let everybody know, George, what we've got to look ahead to? There's a full weekend of fixtures in there on Saturday. I think it's all on Saturday and Sunday this week, isn't it?
Yeah, all wraps up over the weekend, James, the 2 days. It starts on Saturday, the 21st of September, 8 p.m. Kickoff is Corinthians against GO. Also at the same time is Vitória against Juventude. And at 10:30 UK time is Fluminense against Botafogo. Into Sunday morning, James, early doors, Sunday, Fortaleza host Bahia. Then later on Sunday at 8 p.m. UK time, Galo hosts RB Bragantino, Vasco against Palmeiras, Inter 10:30. Then all games played 10:30 UK time. Criciúma against Atlético Paranense, like you mentioned. Cuiabá against Cruzeiro. Grêmio host Flamengo, and Sao Paulo wrap the weekend up with a home game against Inter.
Yep, lots to look forward to. Have you managed to pick out a game of the week out of that, George?
You know what, James? It kind of flittered as we've been talking, to be honest with you. I had one in mind when we came into the pod today. I think it's changed probably twice since then.
Wow. You've had a real internal struggle going on, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. You know what I mean? Maybe it's the apple juice that's made me just think a bit. Well, I don't know, but or the succo di Marca. But yeah, I think the one I'm going to go with, James, is the one we just mentioned, because I haven't looked at these two teams too tough really in the past, and that is Criciúma against Atlético Paranense. The simple fact, really, I haven't looked at the two teams too much, and also it's a bit of a on-edge relegation battle. Whoever loses could be sucked into that relegation battle. So it'll be interesting to see who can come out on top of that one.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good one, actually. I've also been struggling to pick one. I was going to go with Corinthians against GO, but because that's a bit of a relegation scrap, but also GO are pretty much gone, as you say. And we did look at Corinthians this time. So, yeah, I was going to go with... I'm a bit torn, to be honest. I was thinking either Sao Paulo v Inter. As I said, it's that's got ramifications, and I think the two teams are worth looking at the moment. But I was also thinking about Fortaleza against Bahia, just because they are two teams who've been the real kind of stories of the season in different ways, and both of them have kind of dipped off a bit. But it could be a bit of a battle between who's going to push on a bit towards the end of the season. So I think I'm going to go with that one. I'm going to go Fortaleza Bahia because I feel as though I did look at Inter not that long ago, and I think we looked at Sao Paulo as well. So Fortaleza we don't seem to have looked at for a few weeks since we were looking at them, and then the form's gone off the boiler. So we've not really shone a light on that. So going to look at that, and Bahia again we haven't really kind of looked at, and they just come off the back of a massive win themselves, and maybe looking good for a late season push into the top kind of four as well. So yeah, that's my pick this week.
To be honest with you, James, those two games you mentioned I initially started with Fortaleza against Bahia, and then I moved to Sao Paulo against Inter, and then I ended up with Criciúma against Paranense. So I think Fortaleza against Bahia is a little bit of a derby game as well, potentially. I think they're in the same sort of area.
You could be right. I don't know if you want to have a look at it. We don't really know the kind of those slightly off kind of. I mean, Fortaleza's in the north, isn't it?
I think they're both in the northeast, aren't they, of Brazil, potentially. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's two managers as well that I like as well, Pablo Voivoda and of course Rogerio Ceni. So yeah, good for you looking at that one.
Yeah, good battle coming up. Great stuff, George. Well, I think that about wraps up the pod for this week, doesn't it? Unless there's any tidbits you want to mention before we do a rundown of the table.
No, I don't think so, James. I think that's all I've got to say for now.
Well, get that table run down, and then you can have all the succo de whatever it was that you can dream of.
Succo de maca. Yes, but it's nearly finished, but there you go. So yeah.
Get the table done, and then you can just enjoy it, can't you? That's great.
Well, that's it. So first off is Botafogo on top of the tree on 53. Second is Palmeiras with 50 points. Third is Fortaleza with 49. Fourth is Flamengo with 45. Fifth, Sao Paulo on 44. Sixth is Bahia on 42. In seventh place is Cruzeiro with 41. Eighth is Inter with 38. Ninth, Vasco with 35. 10th is Galo on 33. 11th, Juventude on 32. 12th position, RB Bragantino on 31. 13th is Atletico Paranense on 30. 14th is Grêmio on 28. Also on 28 is Criciúma on 15 points. 16th position, Fluminense on 27. Into relegation zone, James, 17th position, Vitória on 25. 18th is Corinthians, also on 25. 19th is Cuiabá on 22. And bottom of the pile, James, is Atletico GO, as always, on 18 points.
Yes, struggling down there, as we always say. Look, very much like they're going to go, don't they? I think, John, I was just thinking as you were running down through the table there, we've got another international break coming up, haven't we? I think, a couple of weeks, yeah. I actually might be away for that, but if we're doing it, I was thinking we might do a bit of a Serie B roundup and just have a look at what's going on there, kind of have a bit of a spotlight on the teams towards the top of that table. That might be worth doing, might it? But yeah, that just occurred to me now.
You're having your own international break, are you, as they are?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'd have to double check that, but we might still be able to get a show out anyway. We'll
it's all international, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah,
we could have his own international duty, I suppose.
Well, yeah, we could do in some ways. But as the music starts to play us out, George, you've enjoyed the show. Enjoy the week. We'll see you all next week. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I do.
Bringing the passion from every town. Let the world be filled with love tonight. Sway to the beat, make you feel so right. Song by summer vibes, we're dancing in the heat. Go, go, go. Can't be beat up in Brazil. Go spread love in every way. In the sound of paradise, we're here to stay.